All right. Hey, guys. We
Hi.
are live for L.W.A Book Club with Margaret and Millie. So today we're going to be talking about Going Postal from Terry Pratchett. But first, let's introduce our guests. Margaret, please tell us about yourself.
Hi. I'm Margaret, as Kathy and Donovan already said. I'm a graduate student in planetary science in Tucson, Arizona, which means that I go to school to study space, but only stars and smaller. Um, and I'm trying to think what else that's fun to add. I've
How
been
do
an
you read
L.W.A
letters?
member since like June 2014, I think, and I'm one of Kathy's pen pals.
All right.
Okay.
How'd you
Hi.
get into letters, though?
Oh, how did I get into writing letters? So what ended up happening is I grew up in Washington State, where if you know anything about Western Washington, it rains all the time and you can't really do astronomy very easily most nights of the year. And I thought I wanted to do observational astronomy, so I moved to Flagstaff, which meant that most of my family was no longer in the same state as I was and most of my friends. And so I started writing postcards to my sister, like my family, my next door neighbors. And then that kind of intensified when I moved away again to grad school. So I have a mix of pen pals who are friends from undergrad, friends that are now going to graduate school in different places, a couple of L.W.A pen pal friend, letter writing friends. And so it basically kind of turned into a way when I went to graduate school to kind of stay in contact with everyone. That wasn't Facebook, because Facebook I was kind of getting tired of, and it's not as personal. And so that kind of personal connection and getting something in the mail when you're far away from home is always really exciting.
For sure, dude. Yeah. Um, Millie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Millie Legra, and I live in Florida. Let's see. I work for the electric company down here. I don't do anything as exciting as stars and smaller, like Margaret. But I've got two young girls. I've known Kathy. Uh, I think Donovan said forever, but almost forever. Like almost right out of high school,
Yeah.
college, and then subsequently met Donovan. And I've been with the L.W.A now very little, actually. I think it's been about 3 months, 4 months. My kids are old enough now that I have a little bit more breathing and me time. And so I really enjoy writing and receiving letters, and that's why I'm here.
Yay.
Fantastic. Thank you both for joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody online for joining
Mhm.
us. Thanks for continuing to write letters.
For sure, dude.
Mhm.
I'm super excited that this was the book that we read this time, because if you guys have been doing book club for, I don't know, for the last 3 books, they were pretty crappy freaking books.
I mean, 2 degrees. There are certain books for certain people. I've corresponded with people that really enjoyed Readers of Broken Wheel. Like, it just fit their popcorn criteria.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. The thing is that not everybody's going to like every single book, and that's totally cool. But I agree that it was a breath of fresh air to read a book that I know I love and enjoy,
Yeah.
and get to share with people.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
Yeah. From an author that I enjoy and that actually had something to do with letters was really pretty awesome. So, yeah, I don't know. So, Donovan, what did you think about the book?
I love this book. This is one of my favorite Terry Pratchett books, but I mean, that's he was an incredibly prolific writer. And if it is a style of writing that you enjoy, which I guess is like satire, I think he would best be described as a satirist, then he's great for you. And especially because he comes at satire from a fantasy and science fiction perspective. And so that's my jam. That is what I love to read. And I read this book when it was published. Like, I read this book when it came out because I was current with the Discworld series at the time. And at the time, it was my favorite of any of the Discworld books that had been made. Because I just love the post office so much, and it was great to see
that realized in that world.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I also really liked the book. There, like, his writing was absolutely gorgeous at sometimes. Like, I think he called letters was it like a cheap kind of magic or something like that, or an inexpensive type of magic? And I was like, that's amazing. I don't know, some of the wording that he had on some of these were pretty nice. So yeah, and I just like the world he built and everything. And there's a lot of interesting undercurrents that I think we'll get into later with like the golems and the clack towers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Margaret?
I definitely liked it. It was my first Terry Pratchett book since I graduated from high school. I was reading like one a week for a while, but I kind of verged off into reading all of the Night Watch kind of sub-series, which is the police procedural, which if you knew me in high school, that made perfect sense. But I'm really glad I went back and read Going Postal for the first time right after it was announced to be the book club pick, because there's so many kind of cute elements of it. Like, one thing I really like about Terry Pratchett is puns are his thing, and there are puns everywhere. And then Terry Pratchett is always very funny, but also always like very kind. Like I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but the pin collectors who turn into stamp collectors, like, he makes fun of them and like tears them a new one periodically. But it's also out of a place of, isn't this kind of cool? This is kind of how people act. So I think that sense of wonder was always something that was kind of fun, and the fact that it had to do with letters this time around was also good. So I overall enjoyed it.
Yeah. Millie, what'd you think?
I also loved the book. Funny enough, I had never picked up a Terry Pratchett book. In high school, I read Good Omens, which he co-authored, and loved that, but never picked up another one. And, like Donovan said, this felt like my jam, because it was just really fun reading. In full disclosure, I actually did not read the book. I have a heck of a commute, and so I listened to it via audiobook. And it was one of those, I can't wait to go home, and dear Lord, I hope it takes 2 hours to get home so that I can just sit here and listen. For me, one of the things that I took away, obviously the dialogue and the humor that's woven in and out of just the world that seems to be Discworld. But the other thing also was the supporting characters. I love the supporting characters. They were these oddball little characters that you felt like, I just want to go visit with them for a little while. And whenever they came into a scene with Moist von Lipwig, it was exciting to me.
Yeah. And you actually went ahead and finished the whole Moist trilogy, right?
I did. Like I said, I have a heck of a commute, and so I did the whole trilogy. It's hard, for me, you get introduced to this world, that first one is like, ah, and it's difficult to keep that same magic. But the gentleman who narrates the audiobook, Stephen Briggs, has ruined all other audiobooks for me. I want him to, it's like, it's better than Morgan Freeman. That's all I can say. So if for some reason you want something that you can do while you're like doing stuff, and you're not physically reading, I highly recommend it, because the accents he uses, the voices he uses, really bring it to life.
And did you, is Letters and the Post Office still part of that trilogy, or does it switch topics?
It switches topics. It's very similar in that you're sort of taking this, how can I bring efficiencies to different technology? So there's making money, and then raising steam, I believe, is the third one. So similar to what we see in Going Postal, where stamps suddenly become a currency, we're taking that and applying it to this banking system in a more which needs improving. And Lord Veterinary just sort of thrusts Moist into this world and does the same thing similarly with the railroad in the third installment.
Cool. Margaret, did you move on to the rest of the books or no?
I didn't actually move. I didn't finish the trilogy, but now I kind of want to go do that.
Yeah, I was curious about whether or not it kept going with the same theme of the post office or not. So
My only regret is that since Terry Pratchett has passed on, we will never get a Moist Von Lipwig revamps their tax system.
Yeah.
I really wanted that one.
There was a hint. Yeah.
Because I've read Making Money, I've read Raising Steam, and I like how much knowledge he imparts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are things about like the banking system that I would never have known, and now I know them because I read Making Money. And it's just like, oh, he's got a really good way of making boring things interesting. Like, how the mail is processed is interesting to me, but I think he manages to make it interesting to normal people.
Yeah. So you had mentioned the stamp collectors, Margaret, coming from like, you know, but he was poking fun of them. And what was interesting to me is that when he was talking about the pin collectors, I was like, oh, so he's kind of making them like stamp collectors. But I had no idea that they were going to end up being stamp collectors. So I liked how he kind of surprised me with that.
Oh, yeah.
And just how smart, how clever Moist was because of his con artist background. It's like, can't you just perforate them like this? And like, I just love those little parts. Like, it was, oh man, it was so freaking good. But so the one part I didn't get though yet was what was up with all the angels, like the references to angels. You guys?
Yeah, it was the golem that was talking about them. No, it was
just code, wasn't it?
It was. So Lord Vetinari, whatever.
Oh.
Yeah. It opens with angels, and then angels keeps popping up over and over again.
I didn't see it as a popping up over and over again.
Okay.
I think he just repeats his offer that way. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to elevate his request, and I'm not strong-arming you into doing something that I want you to do. But funny enough, it's something that's going to be better for you. It's going to set you down this path that maybe will be good for you.
Yeah,
that's how I took it.
I saw imagery to angels come up a few times. Like, you know, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it happened, you know, in the post office, and then there was just a lot of allegory with wings and angels coming up a lot. And I just wondered if Terry Pratchett was doing something, trying to do something on purpose that I was missing.
No, I don't think so.
No, okay. I was looking into it too deeply. But my favorite scene, and I'll ask everyone's, but my favorite scene was when he went into the past in the post office, and he was able to see all the stuff as it was when the post office was at its heyday, and also figure out how all the other postal people died. It's like, oh, there's no floor there in real life, but he just kept walking, and that's what happened. You know, I really liked that scene. It was one of the I mean, a lot of them I could visualize very strongly, but that was one of the ones where it was like I was watching a movie in my head when I was reading that. It was so clear to me. So, how about you, my dear? You want me to get back to you?
My favorite scene in the book is definitely the initiation scene.
Oh, God.
Yes.
It's so good. And I mean, just like the whole thing with the dogs, and I mean, yeah, that whole scene. And honestly, if anyone is a long-time L.W.A. member, we still have the IR initiative thing, but we used to have a more in-depth sort of coded secret society kind of exploration adventure you could do through the mail, which is great, and I wish we could get back to, but there's a lot of moving parts. But it was inspired a lot by that particular scene in this book. Just like,
I liked it when they figured out, like, or Moist figured out that the reason the guy didn't have any fingers is because
the mailbox. Yep.
What did they make these flaps of? Razor blades.
And how the golem won all parts of it.
Oh yeah, just smash.
Yeah, just smash.
Letter delivered.
I love Pump. What is it? Pump 13 or Pump 19?
Anghammerat.
Oh, the Egyptian one was
Yeah.
awesome. I loved him. I was very
Pump 91.
very sad to see him die. I was absolutely upset. But anyway, Margaret, what was your favorite scene?
So I think it occurs over several pages, but that whole process of returning that, I think it was that love letter that had gotten lost in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me think, okay, so there's so many things that rely on the timing. Or I think during that ghost scene, like there's a list of like snippets of letters, and one of them's like, we regret to inform you that like your husband's been killed, but also like a farm boy riding home and all those other things. I think those little scenes of, even though there's like this much larger thing at work, it's also people's like personal stories that are being sent here. And that they have to get back. Like the mail is alive. You've been leaving it around in stacks and it needs to like go be read, I think is what Pump at one point said. It's like letters need to be read. So I like the scene when it turns out that even though Moist did something he shouldn't have by like removing mail from the mail repository and breaking all the rules or whatever, he ended up bringing two people together who had been living totally different lives, but then a letter kind of changed that.
Yeah, that was that. He mentioned a few times, or that Terry Pratchett mentioned a few times in like some really beautiful writing about how, you know, letters are a history, and I was just like underlining, like yes, just like it was so beautiful the way he was saying it. So yeah, Millie, what was your favorite scene?
Again, I get really stuck on the side characters. I loved Igor's, like, oh crap, I need to find a new job because this guy's talking to himself. and again, I think my experience is super colored with it being an audiobook. So he did this like wonderful Igor accent with a slight lift, and it was perfect. And so Igor's saying like, oh, when the master starts talking to himself, it's time to, and then he goes through a list of his cousin Igor who works, you know, at the hospital. I remember cracking up in the car, and you had one of those moments when I'm driving and I'm just like, somebody looks at me now, they're going to think I'm crazy. I love that scene. I replayed it and replayed it.
The thing I loved about Igor was that he was still a nice guy. Like he went and told the cook, like, you should probably leave. Just pack up. Shit's gonna hit the fan, but I can't tell you how I know, but you gotta go.
So I'm not sure if everyone saw this, but in the print version of the book, each chapter begins with a stamp.
Oh, that's cool.
Kind of off topic, but whoever came up with this book design is freaking brilliant. Like there are hippos in this stamp, which I think is like the animal of the city that they're in, and it's just there's some triangular ones. So it's like whoever came up with this book design was really clever. So like there are also smaller things unrelated to the story I thought they did a really good job with.
Yeah. The hippo is either for Ankh or Moorpork. I can't remember which. Because they're two, it's like they're sister cities that have grown together. They actually designed those stamps. Like those stamps were produced as artist stamps, and they're super stupid expensive in the Cinderella stamp market. But I've had people like send me like just like photocopies of that book, and they've cut them out, and it's fun. I've got a couple. Like the Tower of Art stamp is really big and long, and
they didn't have that in the ebook. They did have you know, the thing in the beginning that was like kind of basically a summary of what happens in each chapter, which I've never seen that before with any Terry Pratchett book. So I thought it was weird that it was giving you a little like mini chapter summary kind of thing.
He did it through the series.
They did it what?
it happened in the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it was done in the audiobook, and he did it for the Moist Volume Lipwig trilogy.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, I'm trying to see. Specific. Why do we have feedback?
Might be coming through Margaret.
It might be me. Let's see if I can mute myself real quickly here.
Okay.
Any more feedback?
Yeah,
it's Margaret.
Yeah, Margaret. Not you, Millie. I don't think, because you got headphones on. Bummer.
She's fixing it. Look.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Margaret. I'm sorry. I I have a lot of highlights. I did the ebook and I have a lot of highlights. And one of the first highlights I'm looking at right now is the bacon sandwich of regret. So yeah, I think that's interesting. But I don't know, man. It was just such a freaking good book.
Was there anything you didn't like about the book?
I guess now's my. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Headphones. Okay. Cool. One thing that had bugged me about the previous two book club selections and kind of this one too, is that like the romantic, like love interest things are always kind of annoying. And when I was doing a quick reread, what's the punny names just got to me, and I think
Adorable.
Yeah, I'm just like, really? Well, because when you say that out loud, that's not anybody's name. That's a pun. Good job, guys. So there are just a couple of things where it's like,
I'm not happy about her name either. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's got a little punny. I can see where it's coming from. And I think the end, she kind of like redeems some of the arc a little bit too. But it's just like, guys, why? Why does there always have to be like a love interest subplot? But I can also see like why it's included, because like Terry Pratchett's thing is kind of like making fun of the form. And of course, if it was some sort of like reformed con man sort of story, of course there has to be like some woman who gets involved. And I think she was in charge of making sure that the golems had like or at least an organization going for them. So at least like she had agency and did things, but it was kind of like, okay, this is a fun tangent, but where's some more like fun writing about the male? Come on, guys. You know why I'm here.
I was kind of like, ugh, about the love interest too, but that's just because I just hate love interest stories in general. But it was, I did like how he made an ass of himself all the time in front of her, which was kind of funny.
My favorite part is that, will you go out with me now, Miss Dearheart? And she's just like, no. No.
Yeah. Millie, did you have any parts that you didn't like?
I think you guys hit it on the head. I thought Adorable was a little flat. Like, I don't know. She did have a job. But she seemed like a picture of someone rather than necessarily, like, I don't know. I think in comparison to other characters, she had a lot less, I don't know, like she was sassy, but it just seemed like I'm constantly sassy. And I actually liked the Adorable Dearheart name because I thought it was just such a juxtaposition to her character. You know, like, oh, my brother called me killer, you can call me Spike type of thing. I actually liked that, but yeah, I thought that it's like, okay, the love story makes sense because it's one of the things that anchors him. And I did like how he would go through this whole, I can always leave. I can always pick up and go. And I think when you're very much so adulting, those are some of the things you think through, like, okay, I could run away, but I'm happy here. I'm not going to run away. So I like that, but I wish their relationship hadn't been so quick.
Yeah. It was, yeah, I think that was probably the part that I was like, about. I did like the way she was introduced, though, with like the arrow going like right
Prosper.
Yeah, his head and stuff. Okay, so which brings me to the golems. So did you guys think of the golems as tools or as individuals?
Individuals.
Yeah, they're definitely people. It's like in other Discworld books too, like they're self-aware, even if they were not designed to be that way.
Especially if you go back to the beginning, like it is a gradual introductory process with golems to Discworld. And I mean, he builds up the golems. Like the golems come to a head necessarily in this book, but they have featured in other books. One of the Watch books does a lot with golems.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, and I think it's Feet of Clay, I think, where there's a golem that is somehow involved, and especially since the Night Watch is not all human, they have really serious discussions about, okay, like, what's the actual responsibility if a golem goes and like commits a crime, and how do we go find this thing if it's not like what was described with Pump? It's someone who could just keep going forever. Like there's not as many limits to people on them, so how are you supposed to go find one that you think might have committed a crime?
Yeah. I did see, I mean, they didn't say it outright, but I did like how the golems agreement to have 1 day of rest is what the post office's hours are. Like they don't work on Sundays. So I just thought that was really funny. But yeah, I was like, so I hadn't read any of the other Pratchett books that have golems in it yet. And the only like literature I've read with golems is this book that Donovan and I read called He, She, and Him, She, Him, and It, or something like that. It's terrible. Don't read it. It's awful. But it had a golem in it. And
it had an android in it. We're using golem as a metaphor.
Yeah.
The Winchester boys have gone against a golem.
Oh, have they? Okay.
Yes.
And Supernatural is what Millie's talking about. So I already
There
had
was also a golem in an X-Files episode.
Oh, I hadn't seen that one. So I
It's an early episode.
I
You've
had
seen
this, you know, this thought of golems as people, not as tools. So when I was reading this book, I was like, do I need to reframe my mind to like think about them as tools just to get through this book? And then I was like, no, you know what? I still consider them individuals. Like this is not, I don't know.
And there's a lot to be said for that particular discussion because it's just like we don't have a golem in our chat. Like we can't get the golem perspective on this. Like that's how I feel about it. I feel like the discussion is very much sort of a, you know, they are a different race, I guess, and they have their own feelings about themselves, and they don't need us defining it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I feel about this conversation.
I felt, yeah, but okay, so.
If you would have been like sassier and angrier and smoking a cigarette, I would have called you a doorbell.
Yeah. So, I mean, I considered them enough people that I was like, yeah, like I said earlier, upset about the Egyptian golem being or the ancient golem being super dead because of water and heat. That combination. That was sad. So, okay. Yeah. And then let me see now. Questions from the Goodreads thing. So he wrote the book in 2004, or it was published in 2004, and obviously post-internet. So do you think that he was making a really strong parallel between the clacks and the internet?
I mean,
so
yeah,
I did see.
Oh yeah, that's totally how I read it, especially with the junk code around the messages. Like that's how the internet handles messages a lot of times. Like there's there's code that you don't necessarily see in your email message that tells like email servers to go do certain things. And the fact that there was like a fatal flaw in the code too, I just thought was like very pointedly trying to be talking about computers and talking about, you know, sometimes when you lose the physicality of things crop up that you weren't expecting that can become problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the smoking GNU was totally developing a virus.
Yeah.
So I think it was a lot about our dependency on the internet. So it's, you know, what's your backup? And if for some reason we were to do away with the mail system and something happened to the internet, we'd just be like, what?
Right, or if one kind of like stereotypical evil businessman takes over the entire thing, what do we have? Maybe like a con man who's trying to reform the postal system with a couple of plucky sidekicks, but like I guess that leads into a like more serious conversation of like what do we do about the internet and the control of it? But.
Right. Yeah, that is a big sticky thing, right? Like who has control of a free, quote unquote, free thing, right? Like that doesn't have a governing system or something like that.
Well, I mean, we are paying a nominal fee.
Yeah, but there isn't anyone
access.
who's the ruler of the internet. Like there isn't, you know, a chief commissioner of internet.
Yeah, but we got to go through things like Comcast. We gotta, we have to deal with the system.
Isn't there such a thing as a data czar or something like that?
Sure, I'm sure there is.
Yeah. Okay.
I had honestly never put this
Google it.
before this. I thought of the clacks as like the telegram system. I did not think of it in terms of the internet at all.
Oh, really?
At all. And it's possibly because I don't think about the internet at all. I'm not I am so non-tech that if Kathy were not here, there would be no live internet discussions because I'm just, I don't know. I can understand how letters work, and to a certain extent, I can understand how telegrams work. And I'm just on the edge of understanding how phone calls work. So I never considered it. I seriously thought it was about like the telephone and telegrams.
Well, and now that I think about it, the code ends up destroying the hardware that sends the clocks, right? By the end of the book.
Yeah.
Like last week, the big internet, or 2 weeks ago now, the big internet down for most of the entire East Coast was because people had been, I guess, hooking up wireless capable devices that weren't actually computers to the system. And somehow the code took advantage of that vulnerability. So it was hardware destroying the internet, which was kind of like a flip side of what's happening. And like Terry Pratchett obviously can't predict the future, but I thought it was kind of cool how something that Terry Pratchett had concerns about in the past ends up actually happening. And I don't know if that's super special or maybe more people saw it coming since I'm not like in the internet security community, but I thought it was very timely that some of the issues that Terry Pratchett kind of addresses keep coming up.
Yeah. And the scene where they all band together, who are the guys that were on the roof? What did they call themselves?
Those are smoking canoes.
Yeah. So when that scene when they're on like that tower and they basically fake, they're hackers. They're being hackers. They're faking a clock tower because of the knowledge that they have, and they're black hatting it. They're being, like
white. Well,
no, white's good, black's bad.
Well, they are good guys.
Well,
It's a gray hat.
It's a gray hat. It's a gray hat.
Gray hat.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess they're white hat because they're using their evil knowledge for good or whatever. But anyway, that whole scene was great. It's like, the owl is pecking at my ear now, or whatever the owl was doing to him was excellent. Yeah, it was definitely. But sometimes I saw it as the internet, and other times I just saw it as like technology in general. Like it could be a phone, just regular calling. Like
no, I think you're spot on. Yeah, but it
tended to change. Like it just seemed to be about moving forward in general was the, was the thing. Like, and to me it was interesting how it wasn't necessarily all bad, and it wasn't necessarily all good either. He kind of made you walk the line.
Well, that's the thing. It's just like, we're using the internet to do this, but we send letters too. Like it's the proper tool for the proper job.
Right.
And I think it's about dependency, that single system dependency. And then going back to Margaret's point is, who's running this and who's taking responsibility, and do they have kind of this, yay, good vibe going on with how they're treating it? Or is it, how much money can I make and make a quick buck and get away with it?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't have any other questions on the Goodreads thing. Did you guys have any ponderings about that you wanted answered about the book at all?
I was curious what everyone's take was on the patrician. Because he very clearly relishes and says, I am a dictator. What I say goes. And from what we can see, it's relatively benign in the big scheme of things. But do you think that he was an overall good character, or is he in some ways the bad guy?
I think that goes back to it's not all good and it's not all bad. Like he is fully aware that he is a dictator, right? So he's not like pretending not to be, and he tells everyone that that's what he is, and he thinks he's doing everything for the good of the city. So
I think we never got to the part in Discworld where Terry Pratchett lets Ankh-Morpork go. But I think Lord Vetinari's entire scheme of things is to end them up with a democracy. Like, look at England. England still has a queen, but they have a system. Mm-hmm. Like, it's all about sort of that take your medicine, sort of like, this is going to be good for you. I need this to work when I am not here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this needs to continue. You have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, and I guess saving Moist was an extra legal measure that he shouldn't have taken.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Moist was found guilty. He had his punishment. So acting outside of the law is something like a benevolent dictator can do. But if it's not that person, or it's not that series of personality traits, you start having problems, which means that ultimately this whole benevolent dictator scheme won't work in the long run. But for now, it seems like they stumbled their way into somebody who is self-aware enough, like Donovan was talking about, to make changes that are good and important, but also realize that he has powers that a democratically elected person wouldn't have. So it's definitely interesting. And then when he pops up in other Discworld books, he's always kind of self-deprecating a little bit too. Like, he knows what he's doing is kind of questionable, but he's like, I got all the power. I can do what I want. So I think more often than not, he ends up being good, but he has powers like by rights he shouldn't have.
And yeah, and also if you read other Discworld books, there's a whole lot. Like, there are people that want to overthrow Vetinari a ton so that they can put a monarchy back in place so that they can have power instead of the monarchy. It's just like a puppet royalty sort of thing. So there's a whole bunch of like politics involved in that. I had a second part of that and I don't remember what it is. Did anyone watch the BBC adaptation?
I have it ready to watch.
Okay. So I wondered about your question simply because in the BBC adaptations, at least in one of them, Charles Dance is Lord Vetinari. And it is hard to see Charles Dance as anything other than completely evil.
Yeah.
And completely just like calculating and just there's I don't know. It's hard to see the softer side of Charles Dance. So yeah.
I'm trying to look for a picture of him. I think I know who. He's that guy. He's like the bad in every single Doctor Who episode known to man. Yeah, he's got that bad guy face.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We haven't talked about him at all, but what is it, Groot? Mr. Groot or Mr. Grunt, or the old
Groot.
Oh my God, that character with the smells and the poultices. And how is this man still alive? His pants walked away without him. Oh my God, that guy was absolutely great.
he writes good characters.
Yeah. Does he come back at
Stanley's
all?
great. Yeah, Groot,
Okay.
Groot remains acting postmaster.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Moist has to go on and do other things, so gets his lifelong.
Gets to wear the hat. He gets to wear the hat.
My favorite character throughout all Terry Pratchett books so far, I've only read about 5 or 6, is Death, and I haven't gone to the Death series yet. But oh my God, he's just, and he makes an appearance in this one too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah. Any wrap up thoughts, ladies?
I haven't watched the adaptation simply because I'm always disappointed with adaptations of Terry Pratchett work. They always just don't seem to hit the exact right notes with me. Like, I watched part of The Hogfather,
Mm-hmm.
which has the same lady that plays Lady Mary in Downton Abbey as Susan, who is Death's granddaughter, which I think is pretty good casting. But there's something quintessential about Terry Pratchett's work in writing that I just don't think translates very well to the screen.
So Donovan suggested that for the holidays, if you're interested in Terry Pratchett, to read The Hogfather because it's set in the holiday season. So you need some festive reading and you like Terry Pratchett, that's the way to go, for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to watch the adaptation because I saw a GIF of it. Yes, I say GIF. Of
It's all about controversy.
Of a scene with the Groat and Moist and the Golem dancing. And I was like, A, I don't remember them dancing. B, the guy who they have as Groat does not look like Groat to me, and the Golem is too short. So I was already upset about it.
I think that wasn't part of the actual show, the miniseries. I think that was just them being goofy, and the cameras happened to be rolling. I think.
Okay.
You'll have to let us know.
Yeah. Are any of you planning on watching it?
I haven't.
Yeah, Millie.
Oh, you have? Okay. And then, Margaret, are you going to watch it?
I was thinking about it, but I think the guy who plays Moist was also in Stephen Moffat's first comedy series ever before he got super famous. So I might not because Coupling.
The Coupling. Oh yeah, I like that show. It's a good one.
Yeah,
definitely. But
I was trying to rewatch it the other day, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is apparently every trope that Stephen Moffat has used in Doctor Who and Sherlock since. I don't know. It might be fun to watch just for the novelty of it, but I think I agree in general that Terry Pratchett it's hard to translate mediums, and it's one of those things too where I have ideas about how these characters are and how they behave, and I think how you would handle some of the puns, especially with the names in film, wouldn't quite work as well. And there are a lot of subtle things, like the golems speak in capital letters. Well, not in all caps, but they capitalize every word. And I think there's something to be said for that being part of their characterization that you're not going to get on film. So I don't know. I might watch it for some giggles, but I'm not running out right now trying to find it on the internet or something to watch.
Yeah. So, well, I'm happy that you guys could join us for, to read this story. And I'm glad that Millie, we got to introduce her to Terry Pratchett because she's never read him before. And I actually didn't start reading Terry Pratchett until about a year ago when I had told Donovan that I really liked The Hitchhiker's Guide. And she's like, well, if you like that kind of writing, you're going to love Terry Pratchett. So I was like, all right.
I was so gleeful. I was so happy. I was just like, oh, I have so much to give you.
So the next book that we're going to read for book club is going to be a change of pace. It's not going to be a comedy.
It's not fiction.
Yeah, it's nonfiction. It's going to be A Nurse at the Front, the First World War Diaries of Sister Edith Appleton. It was recommended to us. You already have the book.
Yeah, I accidentally bought this before Going Postal was kind of switched. And so, I have it. I read the first couple pages and was like, okay, maybe I need to take a break from this for a second. And then it turned out it was Terry Pratchett instead. So I got Terry Pratchett and read that.
Yeah, so our guest for the book club is the one who recommended it to us. It's Mary Robinette Kowal, and she's going to be talking to us about it. And the reason that we chose it is because her newly released book is set in, when is it set? World War I. Okay, yeah. And what's the title of that one? I don't remember off the top of my head.
The new Mary Robinette, Ghost Talkers. This was one of the books that she used as a reference book for writing this particular book.
So, something cozy about the war to make you appreciate everything you have during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Yep.
We bring in the fun.
Yeah.
Well, Veterans Day is on Friday.
Well, there you go.
And this war was supposed to be over by Christmas. So, seasonally appropriate.
There you go.
We planned all of that.
We did. Yeah. Totally planned all of that. So the next book club is going to be on January 15th at 3 p.m. Central. And that's before Martin Luther King Day. So hopefully everyone gets a 3-day weekend so that, we can party on Sunday together. And then in terms of other announcements, we have a letter writing virtual social happening on December 11th, also at 3 p.m. So you can get together with us and get through all your holiday mail with us.
You can do all of it.
All of it. Great.
You can do some of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna be sending New Year's ones because I can't deal with anything else beforehand.
I've already started.
As if this surprises anyone.
Yeah. When do you guys normally start doing your holiday mail?
Crickets, crickets, crickets.
Like frantically
Yeah.
2 weeks before. Like I found a packet of old like holiday cards from last year, and I looked at them and went, "It's November. Maybe I should wait till after Thanksgiving, but maybe now I need to get a jump on that."
Yeah. Well, if you decide that you need some help, we're gonna be there doing kicking butt on the 11th. So
For sure.
yeah,
All day.
yeah, kicking butt all day.
All day, every day.
Yeah, helping you kick butt too. So yeah, that's what we have planned for everything. So I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for reading a book with us.
Yeah.
Talking about Terry Pratchett with us. It's been really fun.
Yeah. I'm glad that we could have two lovely guests join us today.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys again for introducing me to Terry Pratchett. I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
Really, really.
For sure. And please continue reading Terry Pratchett, everyone, because he's got a lot, and they're pretty solid. That is the one thing that was awesome and correct in the previous book of The Readers of Broken Wheel, is that Terry Pratchett was consistent and
put on a consistent author shelf.
That's right. Yeah. So cool. We'll see you guys on the interwebs in December then. So bye.
Bye.